welcome you guys to this episode of CMPAC Spotlight. And on tonight's show, we're going to dare to outdo ourselves by talking with the host and the producer of the program called Dare to Outdo Yourself with Miss Ronda Phillips. So thank you, Miss Ronda.
Well, thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. As I was saying to you earlier, I'm glad to talk with you, and it seems like it must be the right time because of how we came to this tonight. But I want to know how you came up with the title of Dare to Outdo Yourself.
Okay, well, very interesting that you would ask. Actually, many years ago, several years ago, I worked for a communications company, and I was actually being interviewed in front of a panel of other trainers to actually take on a position at the company there. And so I had to actually give a presentation. And the presentation, what came to me was Dare to Outdo Yourself. And the 3 points I touched on were preparation, performance, and persistence. And that just stuck with me. So ever since then, that's been, gosh, a long time ago, that just transitioned from that to me going into ministry and then into television.
That is so awesome. And it's amazing how when we're just kind of going through different things in life, you know, trying to do a presentation, that it ends up being the catalyst for something bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
And when I watch your show, I see how feminine it is, hence these flowers. And do you kind of gear towards the women in the audience, in the viewing audience?
It's not that I gear toward women. However, I do have a lot of women who do contact me as a result of watching the show.
Really?
But I do have men as well who reach out to me. And the topic, of course, with Dare to Outdo Yourself, it's about preparation, performance, and persistence. I try to empower all the viewers who watch the show to take charge of their life in that manner. So I think for me, there's a feminine aspect to me, but there's also that, that bossiness aspect of me as well. Overall, though, I love, that floral touch.
Right.
And I do transition whenever, if you ever watch the program on a regular basis, the settings do change. For the most part, there is that feminine side to me, but then there is that other side to me that, wants to, challenge you, empower you to take charge of your life.
So although you have like this feminine element, and then, you talked about being a boss, boss lady, and you can reach the men also on the streets, there is that breakdown that you do. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, sure. So basically with Dare to Outdo Yourself, I focus on empowering the viewers to take charge of their life through preparation, performance, and persistence. And within that, most of my Empowerment Challenge series do focus on various aspects of life. So that will include overall abundance, but within abundance, I talk about topics that pertain to wealth, health, relationships, and style. And so with that being said, I have a lot of men who reach out to me because of relationship issues, surprisingly or interestingly.
Yeah. Well, speaking of men, your husband and you collaborate on this show, in addition to, of course, in your family, but on your show. So talk to us a little bit about how you guys pull together and come together to do the show.
Yes, well, it's great to have a husband who's right there by your side who can actually assist you with various key aspects of putting a show together. So I heavily rely upon him, with regard to the filming and the editing portion of Dare to Outdo Yourself. So we do film on location, and of course with that I just rely on his eye, for that aspect. And of course with the editing piece, I truly depend on him for that. I think he does an excellent job with regard to editing as well as filming.
Well, I just want to let all the viewers know he was just in here helping her out and being that production assistant that is required whenever you do these shows.
Exactly.
A lot of people a lot of times don't know what goes into the behind the scenes. And they think, you just throw up a show up there, and it's not that way. So I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to see him in here. And he has his own show, right?
Yes. Yes. So, with regard to that, he spends a lot of time, of course, with his own show. He has other guests on that show,
Right.
but he, of course, produces it. And again, he's responsible for the editing piece and the filming piece.
Right.
But there's a lot involved, like you mentioned,
Right.
making sure that the sound is right, the lighting is right. So all those things are important that people don't really, take into consideration whenever they're watching a show.
I had talked to him about the several different shows that the family, is involved in. And so you guys just have taken on this platform, to really put out what you feel like you should say. And it's great. I know a lot of people are benefiting from it. You said you got feedback.
Yes, well, I get feedback all the time, and it's great to know that being here in Access 21, especially that it's a platform in and of itself that enables producers such as myself to be able to provide a means for being able to let others know in whatever way you can, in whatever way you're, I guess you're passionate about, or whatever is strong to you, to be able to take that and utilize it to your benefit, to be able to help other people in return. And so I am so grateful and so thankful for Access 21 for giving me that opportunity to have a platform to do that.
Well, we're glad that you're here. Very glad that you're here because, again, this platform is for anyone who has something to say, and we'll give you the tools in order to do that. But it's all about you. You bring that specialness and that uniqueness and your different experiences to the table.
Yes.
And speaking of that, I noticed that your faith undergirds all that you're doing on this show. So can you talk a little bit about, your faith and why that's important to you?
Sure. Well, it's interesting that you would even bring that up because I'm not one who is a staunch religious person. I'm a kingdom builder, and so there is a big difference.
It's a difference.
And basically, what you see is what you get with me. I don't try to put on a front or put on airs. I am who I am. Right. But I do put Jesus Christ first and foremost in everything that I do. And it is difficult. It's challenging as you go through life. Period. Yeah. So it doesn't mean that I don't make any mistakes. It doesn't mean that everything is always peaches and cream. It doesn't mean that at all. What it does mean for me is that when I gave my life to Christ when I was in college, and I was going through some very trying circumstances, but one of my good friends witnessed to me because she and I were doing some of the same things at that time, and I saw how her life changed, and she witnessed to me, and for me, even during that time, I also was actually reading the Bible from an elective standpoint and taking a course. I learned about various religions, but Christianity resonated with me strongly. And with that, I began to learn some aspects of the Bible, the things that were in the Word, and as my good friend, witnessed to me, I wanted what she had, which was to see a big change in her life. And so when I accepted Christ into my heart as my personal Lord and Savior, there was a big burden that was lifted off of me. That was one of the things I can share that I experienced firsthand. However, with regard to that, I could talk on and on about my relationship with Jesus. That could be one topic in and of itself. But I just say this to say that my life has never been the same. Has been better. And once again, it doesn't mean that I have never gone through anything or that, as a matter of fact, I've faced more challenges since then. However, I always am reminded that I'm not alone, that Jesus is with me. He will never leave me nor forsake me. And, whenever I am going through anything in my life, I just make sure that, once again, if I want to, especially when it comes to the show, Dare to Outdo Yourself, what is it that he needs the people to hear or to know that can make their lives better? And so basically that's how I flow with the topics that I speak on or that I do a series on. And so with regard to that, all I can say is that he comes first.
That's awesome. And I did hear a little bit about different aspects of your life on the show, so you guys got to watch it. It's really good. And I love that you say you took an elective in college and you had to read the Bible. And then you had a friend who was going through things and it's like all at the same time. It sounds like God set you up.
It sounds like he did. He
Yeah.
did. Yes, he did indeed. And you never know. It's funny that you would mention that, because as you're going through life in general, you never know how God is setting or positioning you, you know, with, you know, coming into contact with people. Just even like right now, you and I, you know, at this time, you know, I never would have expected or thought that he would set us up for such a time as this. And many times we take that for granted, you know, whenever we do come across you know, different people in our past in life. But that's one thing that I don't take for granted now, because before it's just, you know, you just go through life and, you know, things are happening to you and, you know, people are coming and going, and sometimes you take for granted, you know, when someone does cross your path that it may be for a very substantial reason, and we just take it lightly. You know, we don't take the time to really try to get to know people further than the little short period of time that we do get to know them or interact with them. And I've learned, you know, across the way that, you know, it's really important to really appreciate the people who are in your life for however amount of time it may be, you know, whether it's for a brief period or for an extended period. It's real important, real necessary to be able to take that to heart. And to utilize it to your benefit, and as well how you can help them benefit from the collaboration as well.
Right. Well, it's so interesting you said that, you know, because it is important to not take things or people for granted. And for such a time of this really rings loudly to me too, because we are still in this pandemic, and hence, you know, the gulf between us. But it's a very challenging time, and I hope your family's okay. I didn't ask you that.
Yes,
they are. Okay. Yeah, I had here at studio, when this first started last year, one of my students had so many family members who passed away. And what I was so encouraged by was that he let it really propel him to do more, especially in this medium. Because, you know, we don't know how much time we have, and then we don't know who we're going to reach and who needs to hear whatever we have been put on this earth to say and to do. So it's good you said that. And I think what's so important right now is to understand how you would empower her, how you would tell someone to be encouraged during this time.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I know we have a lot of controversy regarding whether or not a person should, you know, become vaccinated or not, you know, during this time. And I can share this from myself firsthand that I would encourage anyone, if you have not made the choice as to whether or not you want to get vaccinated or not, for one thing, you have a right to make the decision for yourself whether you believe that you should get vaccinated or not. And I just want to share with my own personal experience, I made the choice to do so. So that would be something I would encourage someone about. My reason being is because I have an underlying health condition, and so, you know, there's a lot of talk about, well, you know, should you get vaccinated or should you not? You know, I don't think that anyone should, you know, the talk is, you know, people tell you, I don't think that anyone should tell me whether I should get vaccinated or not. And for myself, I had to make the decision, to make the choice that, well, if I don't get vaccinated, my chances of getting sicker from my underlying health condition, or perhaps getting hospitalized, or perhaps even dying sooner rather than later, is going to be greater if I don't get vaccinated. If I get vaccinated, there's a chance I can get sick from the vaccination. However, I'd rather get sick from the vaccination as opposed to having to die from, you know, having COVID. So that was my choice and my decision for myself on why I made that decision. So during this time, I would just encourage anyone, if you know what you're dealing with in your own personal life in terms of your health, take that into consideration, because I know for me, I have people that I love in my life, and I do want to stick around a little bit longer, you know. And so that was another thing, another reason why I made that decision. So aside from politics, aside from whether you think that there's a chip in the vaccine that, you know, may, you know, have the government, you know, knowing your every move, aside from all those things, you have to you know, look at it from the standpoint of your overall life, your overall health, people that you love, and what makes sense for you. I know what makes sense for me. I would rather possibly get sick from taking the vaccine for a short period of time, temporarily, if that happened, or were to happen, as opposed to, being hospitalized or dying because I did not get the vaccine and died from COVID. So that was a choice I made for myself. So you have to be able to, make that decision for yourself and weigh out what's more important for you, what's more important for your loved ones. And, aside from myself, I want to protect my loved ones just as well. For anyone who's watching or listening out there right now, I would just ask you to just be encouraged and, take into account what's really, I would say, strongly within you in terms of deep down inside, aside from what you're reading in the papers and watching on the news and what other people are telling you about what their beliefs are and why they don't want to get vaccinated or why they choose to get vaccinated because of whatever they're saying. What strongly is within you in terms of overall your measure of aspect of your health, your life, your loved ones, and weighing that out in terms of life, because life is short. We do have time to make changes in our life and to make decisions in our lives for ourselves and for the benefit and the well-being of others, and not just be totally influenced because of what someone else is saying. Even aside from what I'm telling, I'm just giving you my own story, my testimony, what I've made the decision on. But with that in regard, I just want to encourage other people to be able to be wise in your decision making, in other words, and look at everything, look at the whole picture and not just what politics is saying out there.
Well, I love that you unpacked it like that because it is a choice and everyone has to do what's right for them. And we've heard, different stories as to how the virus has affected people differently, how the vaccine has affected people differently. And to hear you say it like that is so good. And it lends itself to us being nice to each other. This is a time where it's so stressful. And when people are faced with making that decision for whatever reasons, whatever they do, whatever they choose to do, they need to have some support. So that was so good, the way that you said it. And so you guys can see that she is able to coach you and give you advice that you can use, the tools that you need. And on that note, when you talk about being prepared or preparing, performing, and being persistent, tell me something else in your life where you had to apply those three principles.
Oh, well, there are so many things I've had to do in my life to apply those principles overall.
Something that stands out to you recently or?
Well, once again, there are so many different things I could share. But as it pertains to my life in general, I will share this, because I am an open book. I think many people think that when it comes to a person who may be in ministry or someone who is a leader in any regard, whether it be in the workplace or if you have your own business. I do have my own business. I am a certified life coach. I'm an entrepreneur. There are many different things I do. Yeah. However, with regard to that, I think many times, many people think that I just have it all together all the time. And I break down, I cry. Many times, when I'm alone in my bathroom or in the bed, because I may be overwhelmed, with so many different things that I'm working on or trying to figure out. And many times I think that people who really love me have high expectations they place upon me. Right. And so sometimes you don't want to disappoint them. Right. You don't want to let anyone else down that's close to you. And so for myself, there are times when I just felt like giving up. I'm just keeping it real. There are times when I felt like, well, how much more am I going to be able to do because I won't be able to please everyone. If I make this decision, it's not going to please this person. If I make this decision, it's not going to please me. If I make that decision, it's not going to please someone else. Right. And so, sometimes it seems like I'm being pulled in many different directions when I don't expect to be pulled in different directions. And so you're trying to make sure that you can be accommodating in various aspects and ways. So sometimes you have to say no. Right. To some things and to some people. You have to weigh out, just what is really the most, I would say, not necessarily the most important, but what really is priority in that moment or time. You have to weigh that out as you're dealing with anyone in your life. From a business perspective, from a family perspective, just in different regards. And so I've had some challenges in those areas at times in my life. And sometimes, like I said, I want to give up because you feel like you're just overwhelmed. Yeah. And even when to other people, they look at what they see where you are or what you're working on or what you're doing. And sometimes they may not understand fully, what you're dealing with on the inside, what you're dealing with emotionally, what you're dealing with physically, mentally. There are various aspects of what a person may be going through at any given time. And so sometimes only you and God know what you're dealing with. And so it may be difficult, even if you were to try to share or explain what you're dealing with other people, they're not going to understand the full scope of it. Absolutely. And so, but with that in mind, sometimes I feel like giving up, but then all of a sudden, out of the blue, the Holy Spirit will deal with me and tell me, get up. Dust yourself off. Pick yourself up. Move forward. And it may be just one small step I have to take, but I take it. Because then it encourages me to take the next step, and then the next step, and the next. And so. Yeah.
Well, I love that because I can relate. Things get overwhelming, and here we are. We're doing this show. You do your show, and that's what people see. But things that lead up to us being here and being able to talk as an open book. It's life.
Exactly.
It's life. And speaking of life, I was watching Mary J. Blige's documentary called My Life. And, I love her as an artist, but I really didn't know all the things that she has gone through and the harsh things. And a lot of people were coming up to her saying, I went through this, I wanted to give up too. I wanted to take my life, or I just didn't know where I was going to be able to go next, and saying, take the next step is always so awesome. It's a good piece of advice to have. And so, with your show, you encourage as well, and we have Mary J. Blige, who is doing her thing and continuing to encourage people. What you said on your show, one of your shows I saw, was to have more fun in life. Yeah, that's the series that you were doing, right? And so I think that's important, especially when you feel overwhelmed.
I'm really impressed that you watch my show because I forget about some of the topics I speak on, some of the series. But yes, that particular series was very important for me to share because right before I actually gave that series, I had been going through something physically. I had been battling an illness, and my body was just tired. And and once again, people don't think that I go through anything. Everybody, whenever they see me, they just think that everything with me is always, perfect.
You don't look like what you've been through.
But it isn't. And so I was going through a time in a season where just physically I was just, just tired and just, exhausted and everything. And so, my husband, he and I, we had not taken a vacation in years. Wow. And we figured it was just really time. And so he was the one who kept encouraging, let's go ahead and do this, because if we don't, we'll never go. So we made the decision to go ahead and make that choice, or to go ahead and take a vacation. And we had so much fun. We had a great time. And so I would just encourage anyone, that if you, like I think I shared in my series on having more fun in life, that even if you can't go travel somewhere for a long period of time, to at least, take a day to just spend, going uptown, just doing some sightseeing. Or if you are able to afford to stay in a hotel for a weekend, do that, just to get away and do something different, and if you can't even afford that, then if you have your family at home with you, then create your own games, and have fun. Take turns, cooking, dinner, everyone had their own dinner night or something, but be creative. My husband and I do that too. We like to cook together, actually. That's good. When we have an opportunity to do so. And sometimes I'll, take the time to, cook one meal and be creative, and he'll, do it the next. But we try to make the most of our time together when we can, and just really appreciate one another and just have fun. And, even for myself, I mean, I think sometimes I was just at a place where I was being too serious about just life in general. And I just had to learn how to loosen up and just, I'm not a great singer, but I don't mind humming a tune while I'm getting myself ready, to start the day, so it's having fun,
Absolutely.
And if I'm working, I don't mind listening to some of my favorite music while I'm doing so. So those are just some ways in which you can have fun and do it in an inexpensive way.
Right. Well, that's awesome to hear, because people need that right now. Being home, for the most part, we're getting back into things. Right. But people need to learn how to transition and have fun at the same time.
Exactly.
And remember that being here on earth, living, is what we need to do.
Exactly.
And we definitely want to be sensitive about those who have lost loved ones and who may be grieving right now, and maybe you're sick right now. But we believe that you're going to get through it, and that everything that you may be dealing with is something that you'll be able to learn from on the other side of it. And so I'm so glad that your show is also a show that people can learn from. It's doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And so we have like a minute left. Are you considering like podcasting or anything like that? Anything that you want to do coming up?
It's something that has been discussed.
Okay.
But I haven't really taken it to heart yet, because I don't think that I have a podcasting voice.
Oh.
So I really haven't taken it that seriously, but I'm considering it. I just know that there's some things to take to heart with that compared to just television. So, but it's consideration right now.
Well, that's good to hear, because it's always good to like expand and stretch out and just really open yourself up to new things. And of course, with what you do here, we appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
And I want to thank you for joining us tonight. And we've got so much more to talk about, but I'm going to continue to tune into your show, and I hope everybody else will as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And you guys, thank you for watching. You can find Dare to Outdo Yourself right here on TVAccess21.com, also on video on demand. So we hope to see you there, and hope to see you back here on CMPAC Spotlight. Have a good one.